like when she was going through, you know, quite a really intense chemo, I was having my GCSEs and she just take me out every single day for lunch. We sat in the exact same seat in Pretzo and Radler, and the same waitress came over and took the same order every single day for like 2 months this was. And she did it, you know, she didn't feel well at all. She didn't, you know, she wouldn't have wanted to go outside. But she did it because she just wanted to be there for me as much as she could and just, you know, make me just know that everything's going to be okay.
Hello, and welcome back to the Living with Loss podcast. Today I'm joined by the wonderful Jess Fine. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. So it's lovely to have you here. Obviously, we were talking about this for quite a while. But yeah, it's good to obviously see you in person and be here. So obviously I want to get things started. Who are we discussing today, and share a little bit about their story?
Thank you for having me. My name's Jessica Fine. I lost my mum over 3 years ago now, in 2017. And just want to talk about my story, talk about her story, and just sort of raise awareness for a load of different topics, really.
So what was it that your mother passed of?
So she had she was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer.
Yeah.
It was kind of all a massive shock, and she didn't really even feel the lump. It was sort of a yearly mammogram. And she was, you know, it was found very early on. It was very, very small lump. And, you know, I never was really affected by it because she was very positive. You know, even when she was going through her chemo, I never really knew sort of how, like, the extent of how bad it was and how scary it was until, I guess, towards the end of her sort of, I don't want to say journey, but sort of the end of her, life.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it was triple negative. She went into remission after a year, and then a year later it spread to her lung. She had chemo again for it.
Yeah.
And then it again went into remission, and then unfortunately it spread to her brain in 2017. So
how old were you when she first got diagnosed?
I was 15, so I was doing my GCSEs.
Okay.
It was, again, as I said, it was all a massive shock, and it was only kind of after 6-7 months that she got tested and found out she had the Braca gene.
Okay. So was this brought on sort of like out of no, like you said, you didn't expect this sort of thing. Was this sort of brought on out of nowhere?
Yeah, completely. I mean, I was very lucky. I'd never kind of been exposed to
the cancer world.
The cancer world. And I think, you know, I was quite sort of naive at the time, and I didn't really it didn't hit me how sort of affected I was by it until I guess after she'd passed away. I know it's a bit weird to say, but she really did cover up kind of what she was going through, you know, to sort of keep myself, and I've got a younger brother and sister, so she really wanted to sort of put on a happy front, which she did, and she was amazing. But it didn't really affect me, I guess, until sort of towards the end.
I completely get that. It's just like one of those things. Like, cancer was very much in my life. Like, I had it for, you know, Mum first got diagnosed when I was 8 years old, and it's one of those things where it was very prolific. It was very present in my life that I didn't even think about. I didn't think about her dying. I didn't think about, it was just something, an aspect of our life that we just, you know, we woke up and that was what we faced. And only until she really, really got ill was when that was something I started to take a little bit more notice. I think maybe I kind of put it all to the back of my mind and didn't want to, you know, think about it. I just wanted to see my mum for the strong woman that she is. But the truth is that, she was suffering, and as a mother, like you said, she didn't want to expose her children to the harsh realities of cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, how was it, you know, how did you sort of cope when, obviously you were 15, it must have been a huge shock. How did you sort of cope at the time?
I mean, it was a huge sort of shock to the system, I guess. You know, it's hard because it was different to your story. It was quite a short kind of, sorry.
Carry on, just check the camera.
It was a short sort of, it was only 3 years. So it's all kind of a bit of a blur, and I kind of can't remember how it was towards the start. And unfortunately, the memories that are more attached with me now is kind of how she was towards the end, which is the thing that has affected me, and I guess it's almost a bit traumatizing.
Yeah.
So I think I did, for most of it, I did cope quite well, and I think, as long as she was okay, so to speak, I was okay. And it was only when I really sort of saw it deteriorate towards the end, I think that's when it's, I just try to keep myself really busy, and that's what I still do to this day. I'm out all the time, and I probably don't spend enough time to myself as I should, and sort of let those thoughts accumulate. I just kind of like to be busy, surround myself with friends, family, do things that make me happy, and that's, I guess, what I did back then as well. I was just very, very busy. It's my coping mechanism.
I mean, you touched on a few things there. I mean, firstly, I know completely, like, what you're saying in terms of, like, a lot of my mum's memories now, and although I've only kind of been I've only been grieving for a year, it's very hard to, like, I almost struggle to remember the happy times and remember my mum laughing. And it's not because, even though she had cancer for such a long time, during most of that spell, that period, whatever you want to call it, she was this beautiful, strong, like a normal, well, what is a normal mother, but just like a normal person. Like, you wouldn't assume she had cancer. And yet all I can think about now are, like, the last 3 to 4 weeks, like the last 5 weeks, where life, the life was being drained from her each second. And it's hard to, like, I really struggle, and I don't know why that is. Like, maybe that's because that is the most last recent memory I had of her. I don't really know, but I think that's kind of why grief is everlasting, because those traumatic memories,
They stay in your mind.
Yeah, they don't ever really go. They're always, they're like, I was watching something with Disney the other day.
I love Disney.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Disney Plus, even though I don't actually have a membership. I'm nicking someone else's.
I love that.
But so I was watching, like, Toy Story or something like that, and for no apparent reason, I just got overly emotional. Like, have you seen Toy Story 3?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so you know the bit where they're all, like, hand in hand, like, in the, like, incinerator, like, they're all about to.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, for no reason, I've just got so emotional. And this was obviously because of Mum. Like, we watched it together.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm sitting here watching this film, like, in not tears, but I'm just like,
why am I crying at Toy Story 3?
Why am I getting so emotional? This is just a children's movie, but, like, it has that effect. Like, grief has that everlasting effect where you just.
Little moments that you can't even explain association. They just bring you to tears for no reason. Yeah, yeah.
It's the same. Because I do feel like, as a person, I have changed. Like, I don't know, like, what I think in terms of, like, mentally, but definitely my inner beliefs and who I am as a person, that has definitely changed. Like, what do you think? Do you think?
I completely agree with you. Yeah. I mean, now, I'm sure you're exactly the same. I try, I do have little stresses every day, as everyone does, but anything, small stress, I think, okay, I've got my health, I've got my happiness, I've got my family around me, I've got my friends. That's really all I need. And it kind of makes me think, that I can overcome sort of smaller problems. And I just put a massive value on health, which I probably wouldn't have done, years ago.
Yeah.
I'm sure maybe you're the same, not that I never don't, have empathy for other people's problems, and I always want my friends, to tell me what's going on with them, and I never sort of compare my problems to theirs. But I do think that, I just put health above everything now. So I think in that sense I do. I just want to get the most out of every single day.
And do you think, having faced what you faced, inevitably that is why you are more. My voice just croaks. Inevitably, that is why you are more, like, health conscious.
Yeah, completely.
And when you say that, is that, like, dietary, or is that, like, you just having
mainly cancer related?
Okay,
I'd say. Which I know it's understandable. It's completely understandable, but I can't help it. It's just kind of the way my
brain works. I suppose when you're exposed to that, and that is, a lot of people are affected by cancer, and I think once you
are exposed to it.
Once you are exposed to it, you do kind of see the harsh nature. I mean, I've had like I don't know, 7 or 8 of these chats, 9 or 10 of, I don't know the exact number, I really should know that, but the percentage that have lost someone to cancer is, you know, astronomical. It's, you know, it's very high, and it's completely normal to have those kind of anxieties. Like, I definitely, when I was definitely younger, I was quite superstitious, in the sense, I think, when you see that you can't control everything in life, and, you know, you know, as much as I am a control freak, I can't control my mum getting unwell, and I can't control my own, well, to an extent, I can't control my own health, and
I know, it's hard when you can't control it.
yeah, I had a point, and it's just gone out my head.
Oh, sorry.
No, not because of you. It's just completely gone out my head. I was saying something. Okay, yeah. So I had like quite an my view of cancer. Like, I had such a fear. Like, it was weird. Like, I must have been 12 or 13, and I was thinking, look, this is really superstitious, and I don't believe in superstitions now, but I was, you know, I don't know, this is going to sound stupid, but let's say if I stepped on a crack on the pavement, like, I was going to get cancer.
Oh my God.
And it's not that I don't believe that. Like, I don't believe that. It's when I was younger, because that was what I was exposed to, and that's what I saw. I had such a fear for getting cancer because I saw what it did to my mum. I kind of had these weird kind of thoughts. Obviously,
I guess it's because you do anything to make sure that you stay healthy and you don't get it.
Yeah,
So
is that what you sort of mean, though?
Yeah, well, not in terms of superstition.
Yeah, cool. So
I know.
me being weirdo, but,
I mean, I will do anything to kind of, you know, I'll go for probably more scans than I should. You know, I remember my friends probably think I'm crazy. I'll just, you know, last year I did go for a lot of scans, and I admit myself to the A&E, and I know it does look crazy from the outside, and I know, you know, how. It's just when you have such a sort of irrational fear. Is rational fear? Yeah. It's it doesn't obviously take over my life at all. I'm very sort of, you know, in control, and I, you know, want to do everything to sort of have the best day I can. But sometimes, you know, the anxiety does override it, just because of, like we said, like, it's just when you see someone else go through it and how horrendous it is. But then on the other side of it, and this is like a slightly more, if there's any positive from it, it's at least I have this huge value for my health and for my life, and it pushes me to do things that maybe in the past I wouldn't have done, but now I just think I may as well, because, you know, just to make myself happy, my friends and family, that's such a priority for me now. Completely. In every, you know, I know people say it, but I do genuinely just want to make the most out of every day. Yeah,
I mean, I do want to go a bit about your mum's journey.
Yeah, of course.
I brushed over that a little bit.
Sorry, yeah.
But how? So, like, when she first got diagnosed, did you notice a change in her, or was she just?
No, I didn't. I think, like I said before, her, you know, she was so strong, and I never saw it really. Even towards the end, I mean, you'd never know kind of what she was going through mentally, physically. She tried to hide as much as she could. I mean, she, you know, when she was first having chemo, she had the cold cap, and it was, I mean, I'm not sure if you know about the cold cap, but it was 5 hours of just, you know, grueling, just ice on your head. It was painful. You know, she'd sit there crying in pain, but she did it because she wanted to keep her hair and,
of course,
you know, just to look as, you know, just normal as possible for her children and for her husband. And so I mean, lots of things she did, you'd never know. I mean, like when she was going through, you know, quite a really intense chemo, I was having my GCSEs, and she'd just take me out every single day for lunch. We sat in the exact same seat in Prezzo and Radler, and the same waitress came over and took the same order every single day for like 2 months this was. And she did it, you know, she didn't feel well at all. She didn't, you know, she wouldn't have wanted to go outside, but she did it because she just wanted to be there for me as much as she could, and just, you know, make me just know that everything's going to be okay. So that's something I'd always admire about her. Like, I would never forget. Yeah,
completely. It's sure, it's remarkable how mothers can do that. Like, you know, where I had COVID early September, and I was just like in bed, like, obviously, like, it wasn't great, but like the whole point was like the fact that my mum had this ongoing disease, and she could just pick herself up, like what you're saying about your mum, and just go about life as if, you know, like there was not a care in the world, and sort of care for me. You know what I mean? It was like when I feel like obviously I was young, but I should have been caring for her. But it was just the fact that she wouldn't want to expose us being myself, my siblings,
Yeah.
to any more trauma than need be. Like you said, I always admire mum for that.
Yeah.
But
It's amazing, yeah.
it's hard though, isn't it? Because like there's so much. Like obviously, you said your mum had, was it a 2-year spell?
Yeah, I mean, it was over 3 years, and she went into remission twice. But
Yeah.
I'd say for 2/3 of it, she was, she had cancer. She was having chemo, probably more actually. So
How much of it did she talk to you about?
So I'd say maybe towards the end, I knew a bit more about it, but I was very kind of hidden away from it at first. So I remember I was meant to see her when she was having her first chemo, and I wasn't allowed to go in, and I never knew why. And I found out like a year later that it was because she had the port put in.
Okay.
And it was so painful that she fainted, and she, I was outside, not knowing what was happening, and she just didn't, want me to be exposed to it and see it. So I think there's probably a lot that went under the scenes that I'll never know about, neither my brother and sister. Obviously, they're much younger; they're like 13 and 12 now. So I think, I mean, I guess because I was 18 when she passed away, it was still quite, I know it's old, but it's also quite young that, she just didn't want me to have to see any of that.
Yeah.
So, but I do wish that I was there more, was more there for her at times.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, I mean, it's a bit of guilt. I always feel like the summer before she passed away, I did go on a few holidays, and I wasn't sure whether to go or not.
Where did you go?
I mean, I actually had a really nice summer. I feel a bit guilty about it. I went to Croatia, I did Ultra. I went on a cruise.
I know.
Amsterdam was actually, and I mean, I do feel quite a lot of guilt that I was away that summer, but she was the one that she said if I'd stayed, she would have been, annoyed at me. She pushed me. I was going to defer the year at uni, and she said, no, don't you dare. And I did go to uni, and I'm happy I didn't, because, I mean, so it was lots of things that she was just so amazing that she pushed me to do. Yeah. And I always feel a bit guilty, but I think there's not, it's...
Well, do you know what? I completely understand that, because Mum had the same mentality.
Yeah.
I obviously, it's weird, well, holiday, so Mum passed in October, and October like 23rd, 2019, just need to make sure that's ingrained into my head. But obviously I was doing camp. I was in camp in America. I was a counsellor that summer.
So you were away for like a good 2.5 months.
But the weird thing was, I was, and then something happened with my camp. I wasn't feeling great. I was just like, I kind of want to come home.
Yeah.
So I did. And at this time, I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. I didn't know, behind the scenes, I didn't know how. I knew my mum wasn't well because I'd seen differences in her appearance, physical changes, definitely the colour was drained. But from a death standpoint, that was inconceivable, wasn't something I thought about. But I came home from camp, and there was just something telling me like I kind of need to come home. Yeah. And then I've gone. My family were going to Israel. We had a wedding there, and I came home and went on this family holiday. And I didn't know at the time, but obviously that was our last family holiday. And I just feel like there was like a hidden knowledge like this, that something telling me like, you have to come home. You have to. I didn't like I said, there was nothing face value on the surface.
Yeah.
There was nothing telling me to come home, but
you just knew.
I just knew.
Yeah.
And when I was on holiday, it was the same sort of thing. Like, I didn't know she was going to pass. Like, it was, the thing with cancer is, so like, Mum went through so much shit. She went through so many changes, so many dietary changes, that it wasn't something I really thought about, because it was just like, oh, this was part of her journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly the same way. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's.
Yeah. You kind of get used to sort of, the medication around the house, and, her going off for a weekly chemo. And it's little things that sort of ingrained into your almost daily routine. And then suddenly when it all stops, it's almost a bit, I mean.
Yeah, like I want.
More, yeah, completely. I do get that. I mean, I think. I think the reason why I am sort of, my health anxiety is prominent, but also that I have this sort of massive value for my health and everything, is because I can actually pinpoint it to this moment where I was like watching her sleep, and this was like sort of quite towards the end before she passed away. And she was sort of like smiling in her sleep, and she woke up and looked at me, and I was like, well, like, why were you smiling? She was like, I just had the best dream. I was healthy, and it was just the best, it's all I want. I looked at her, and I felt this almost this guilt, but also this. I mean, I can't explain it, but just I think that's sort of when it all kicked in. I thought, you know what, it's just your health is everything, and all she wanted was just, to be healthy for longer and have longer with us. But I guess that there was the pro to it, just that it's just changed my value of thing, my value of life, my sorry, I can't speak, my thought process. Stuttering that. Sorry, I've never actually said that out loud before. But it's something that sits with me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I completely get that. I do think, the term health anxiety was never something, until we sort of brought it up, wasn't something I haven't really thought about. General anxiety was something her cancer has definitely changed. I mean, from experiencing that from a young age does, the neurons in your mind, I don't know scientifically, so I'm not going to spit jargon, but I do believe that seeing that from such a young age has implicated and just changed me as a person. Like I do feel like my road and my journey is different from what it would have been had I not experienced this. I mean, obviously I do want to talk about a bit of the work that you're doing. Do you know what? I don't know how when I'm doing these chats, I just sort of a thought just comes into my head, and I'm just like, right, let's go straight in with that. But so obviously you work with, is it Myogenes?
Yeah, it's called Myogenes, yeah.
I've done my research.
Yeah, I was going to say you were impressed.
So just explain a little bit about the work that you do and why it is you got into that sort of thing.
Yeah, sure. So, for years now, I've always wanted to kind of do something where I'm raising awareness for the Braca gene. Yeah. So my mum had BRCA1 and I got Teta, and I'm also a BRCA carrier. It's just basically we all carry BRCA genes, but they're basically sort of tumour suppressant genes. And when you carry the mutation, it can lead to DNA damage, and then basically can cause cancer during that sort of like the span of a lifetime. Yeah. So now my risk is like 80 up to 87% that I could develop breast cancer. Okay. And also so that's obviously the reason we think why my mum had developed such an aggressive cancer. So this is always something I want to raise awareness about. And I've always been at university, kind of also dealing more with my grief and having, there's so many other things going on. So when I finished uni, that was kind of a good opportunity to start raising awareness for it, but I sort of didn't know how, and the job kind of fell into my lap basically. One of my mum's really close friends, she set up a business, a genetic diagnostic business, and part of the test, so there's 5 tests, but 2 of them are to do with hereditary cancer genes, a test for BRCA. So she basically said, do you want to help and raise awareness for it? So I literally started a week later, and I'm still working there now. And it's just, I've listened to master calls about my mum and about the genes, and it's mainly just raising awareness for it, which is something I think I've always, wanted to do. Yeah. And just, for people just to get tested before cancer can develop. Yeah.
So the BRCA gene, is that something that does there need to be a stimulus, a trigger to sort of?
No, it just kicks in. It starts to express itself kind of at different points in someone's life, but it's usually around 40 for a woman for it to kick in for breast cancer. Yeah. And then also ovarian cancer and prostate cancer for a man. So it's also quite high in the Ashkenazi sort of Jewish pool. So that's another reason why I want to raise awareness.
Hereditary.
Yeah. So my sister and brother will have to be tested when they're 18, because there's a 50% chance that one of them will, either of them could carry the gene. But then if then you can sort of do something about it. So that's why I'm really sort of, and also it's something my mum was very proactive about. She really wants to raise awareness for it. So I hope that by doing this, I'm making her proud.
Of course you are.
Hopefully, helping save lives, hopefully.
Yeah. I completely understand. I mean, it's very much the motivation. Well, of course, it's the motivation behind why I'm doing this. Do you know what I mean? It's like
you just want to raise awareness.
And
it's amazing what you're doing. It really is amazing.
Thank you,
I'm really proud of you.
but and like you said, I'm sure my mum's proud of me as well. I think, if before she passed, I would have said this is what I would have done with the year after my loss. She probably would have been like, "Nah, you need to look after yourself." But this is kind of,
it's probably helping you as well.
Well, it is, yeah.
Yeah, completely.
Thank you. I don't like taking compliments.
I know.
I don't really...
I'm the same. I'm sort of...
You sort of complimenting
sort of brushed them off. I know. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's good work, but so a bit more about the Braca gene. So did you say you got tested for that?
Yeah, so I was tested literally a few days after my 18th birthday, which is I did not wait any time.
Okay.
Literally nothing.
Is this your health anxiety?
Yeah, it's my health anxiety kicking in, but I'm happy I know.
Yeah.
And I actually had an appointment yesterday for a breast surgeon, so I'm starting to go on to that. I mean, obviously it's a long process, but starting to sort of get the ball rolling and, just to sort of take my health into my own hands. And I think, like you said before, sort of being in control, it does really help. And I think I'm very lucky that I know about it, but I can be proactive with it and sort of do something about it.
I mean, it is like you said. It's proactivity. With the kind of things, you do sort of need to take a look at it from face value, and you kind of don't want to just let it happen. You kind of want to take actions and put things in place so that nothing develops. I mean, what are these actions? Is that something?
The start just to be tested if you have a history of cancer in the family, and if you're worried about it. And then once you've been tested, and if you were to find out you had the gene, I'm sort of 21. I am very young to be tested. I know I am, but I guess just sort of when you're ready to start taking action, like regular screening and eventually surgeries like double mastectomy, which is removing the breasts, and reconstruction. There's so many different options for people, and like with technology as well, there's so much more they can do about it now, and it's all quite new research. It's only been sort of known about in the last 10 years. But it's really interesting. And I mean, I know it's all really heart-wrenching to say, but if my mum knew earlier, she could have done something about it. So that's sort of the message that I want to spread to other people.
Yeah. And why do you think? Because I do know about the Braca gene only because, well, I say know about. I've heard it thrown around my house like a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know fully about it. And why do you think not that many people know too much about the gene itself?
Well, I mean, I guess it's just the same with my family. We didn't know about it until my mum's.
It's like a cancer thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. So people don't really tend to know until there was a diagnosis in the family, which is unfortunate. But that's kind of, because people don't think to get tested unless there is a history of cancer. But even if there's just one member in the family, we just say, just get tested, and just if you know, there's never a bad thing that will come out of knowing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And how do you find working with this gene on a daily basis? Do you find that hard?
I do find it hard, to be honest. I mean, I do speak to people that have got this history of cancer in the family, and they're very nervous, and it does bring back a lot of sort of memories and sort of not trauma, but it probably has raised quite a lot of emotions recently that maybe I didn't
know you had.
No, maybe I didn't know I had. And when I was, it's very, very different to being at uni and just sort of getting drunk, and just not really thinking about it too much. But in a way, at least it's like you're doing, sort of channeling it into a good thing. So
of course.
Yeah, completely.
You mentioned uni. I do want to speak about that.
Yeah, sure.
How did you find being at uni? Do you obviously? whenever I drink, it's just my relationship has been very very antagonistic. Is that the word?
Yeah. That's quite a good one, actually.
In the sense of, I just feel like a lot of the things that I repress and a lot of the things I don't think about, as soon as I start drinking, my inhibitions are lowered, my card is lowered, so I do become a lot more vulnerable. How did you find that? whilst being?
Yeah, to be honest, I actually am the same as you. It's probably very common, I'm sure, with a lot of people where, yeah, when I drink, I do. It's a weird one. I'm either so happy and like, you know, dancing around, which is most of the time. But I think when I drank towards the beginning, I mean, my mum passed away a week into when I started uni. So it was a lot of heightened emotions. You know, I literally went away for a week and I went back to uni. So within and I probably, maybe some might say I sort of rushed to go back to uni, but I think for me that was my sort of my coping mechanism to keep busy. So they're probably, especially in first year, I'd say I did drink a lot, and it did sometimes, probably too many times. I did get very emotional, and but then, you know, when everyone's around you's doing it, you're not going to stay at home and cry by yourself.
It's a weird problem to face, because when I don't know the percentage, but I can't assume too many uni students lose a parent, you know, well, whilst being at uni or prior to that.
Yeah.
So it's an unfamiliar boat for yourself and others around you, and especially when you lose someone at that age. Like, I was 19, so I was second year of uni.
And then you deferred. Did you defer?
Yeah. So I deferred. Well, I only deferred because of what you explained. I was kind of not working. My concentration was abysmal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I couldn't, and like, I feel like if it was in first year, like, it probably would have been more manageable in a sense of just obviously the workload and things like that. But I was in no position to work. I just suppressed a burp, so sorry about that.
What's that noise?
Yeah, but like, I look, the thing is, it's hard to look after yourself whilst at uni, and there's so much going on around you. You know, there's people going out. There's FOMO. There's all this hidden, like, you're discovering so much about yourself.
Yeah.
I was in a place where there was so much tension. I needed to come home and defer the year, obviously.
Yeah.
But how obviously did things change for you as your uni progressed?
I mean, definitely. I mean, one point I just thought about, actually, that I've never thought about before, is that uni, you're with people all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to kind of sort of have that moment of being, you know, sad, and actually like taking time for yourself to sort of grieve when you're just busy all the time. And when, you know, I could get myself into a state and then someone's knocking on my door and I've got to just quickly wipe away the tears, you know, and be fine. I'm sure, you know, you must have had that as well. But I think for me that almost helped me, because it might have suppressed some feelings, yes, but it sort of got me out of sort of like going into like a worse state. It sort of snapped me out of it, being around people. I am someone that I just don't really like my own, you know, I don't like to be on my, I don't,
See,
probably more now, really.
I love it.
Can't relate. I wish I was more like you, honestly.
Yeah.
Probably a bit more now. I don't mind being on my own for a bit, but at a time, you know, I'd like to be with people all the time. And uni was probably the perfect place. And I think over the course of 3 years, I definitely, you know, like, my grief became a lot more manageable. I think after the 1 year mark, it started to sort of, I could recognise the signs of when I was about to sort of get into a bit of a panic or a bit of a sad, and I was able to sort of, you know, stop it going to, I can't think of the right word, but, you know.
Are you looking for me for help?
Yeah. I can't think of the right word, but it became more manageable. Okay. But then I think towards the end of sort of second and third year, then my health, it was a weird one, because it was always grief I found really unmanageable. My health anxiety was kind of not really there. Yeah. And it was just, the moment my grief, I was able to sort of deal with it better, the health anxiety sort of got worse. There was always kind of one.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't know, to be honest. I honestly, I don't know. I think just that my mind has to sort of focus on something. So when I was able to sort of be able to manage the grief better, it sort of the health anxiety replaced it. And I can't tell you why. I'm sure there's a psychological reason.
I mean, you're quite like a wiry person, so I get that you need to like constantly have something on your mind.
Yeah. I can never shut. I'm sure you're the same. You can never just sort of shut it all off.
Oh, I wish I could, to be honest. But I've tried a bit of meditation.
Yeah, same. It didn't work for me.
No, it's not.
I did try.
Yeah. What was your kind of coping mechanisms after that year point? Did you?
I mean, yeah, so I guess before that I didn't really have any. It was just distraction, being around people, going out, getting drunk, you know, it was really distractions completely. And I think after a year I managed to sort of be a bit happy in my own company, you know, just I can't really think of a specific thing I did that was my coping mechanism. I mean, I've never really done therapy.
Yeah.
I've tried, it hasn't really worked for me personally. I guess, I mean, it is still, I guess, sort of keeping busy. But I guess in different ways. So not just, you know, going out and just, you know, clubbing and stuff. It's more keeping myself busy, you know, working or... I don't really know, to be honest. I can't pinpoint it.
Yeah.
Maybe I guess when work got a bit hard, so I could, you know, that was something to focus on in
Yeah.
the day rather than sort of in first year when there was less pressure.
No, I completely understand that. I do feel, I mean, work is definitely a good distraction. I wouldn't say for me work is a distraction, but it can be. I obviously write a lot. I do find going to the gym quite helpful. Just anything exercise related. I think that's a combination of just like anxiety, well, focusing on like mental health and grief. But I just like, I don't know really why I asked that question, because I do kind of find there isn't a coping mechanism to grief in the sense of, you know, you're not just going to like, I guess everyone has different things that they do, but the grief will never completely go.
No.
If that makes sense.
And sometimes things trigger it that I'm not in control of.
Yeah.
You know, I can't what's the word, like predict when I'll next sort of, it is like people say, it's sort of a bit of waves.
Yeah.
And it's just every now and then it hits me and I can't, you know, help that, but it's just a matter of not going into a really, you know, bad state about it and sort of being able to eventually snap myself out of it a bit. And I guess I'm a bit better at that than I used to be. Yeah.
You see, well, you're talking about it, which I guess is always a positive.
I probably should talk about it more, to be honest. I definitely, But it's nice. It is nice to talk about it. Someone who understands, yeah.
But anyway, why does it seem like me? But yeah, so how do you find like your relation now with the rest of your family? Was there any conflict or?
Well, I actually saw a podcast of yours recently and I really related to it, where everyone in my family has and still does sort of deal with it differently.
Yeah.
And for a long time, it was really frustrating because I didn't understand why they, you know, coped with it so differently to me. And there was a stage where, I mean, you know, we never really mentioned my mum's name. You know, it was just the elephant in the room for a long time. I mean, for probably like 2 years, we didn't really mention her at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think now I've learned to accept that their grief is different to my grief, and especially, you know, that I'm a lot older than my siblings, so it's quite easy sometimes to feel a bit lonely and isolated because I can't sort of speak to them in the same way I speak to a friend because I don't want to upset them because they're younger. But I guess it's sort of learning to accept that they're going to be different and just, you know, different ways grief can come out.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it does.
Did you have the same?
Well, I'm the oldest as well. I assumed in you saying that you're the oldest.
I'm the oldest.
I can believe it's weird though, the whole mentioning her name. I can talk about it. I can talk about, you know, if you ask me questions, if Henry, the guy behind you over there doing his business, asked me questions, I could talk about it.
Yeah, which is amazing because I couldn't after a year, honestly.
But saying that, as soon as my dad sits me down and like wants a deep chat, I don't know why, it's a completely different dynamic. I feel like it's just naturally a lot more intimate, a lot more, I don't want to say forced, it just does bring up a lot more emotions that I like. Talking with you now, you know, it's talking about my mum is something I think of fondly, and you know, I want to share her story, I want to talk about this, but then sitting down, I feel like there's a difference, there's a kind of, you know, when you discuss it with your friends and talking about it with your family, obviously. I don't know why that is just the case. Yeah, but
exactly the same. I mean, I guess also it's sort of like when I talk about my friends, I mean, thank God, like when I speak about them, I know that they haven't, you know, gone through it, and at least, yeah, I mean, it was also more surface. It sort of brushes more on the surface, and then when I speak about my family, also just knowing that they are going through what I'm going through, and that like hurts my heart so much because, you know, to know that they've been as upset as I am, and they, you know, have suffered the same trauma.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot harder to just know that they've been, because, you know, I wouldn't put on any, you know.
Joe, I completely understand that. And that's because I think what you said, it summarises it perfectly in the sense that when you talk about it with your, like, even me talking about with you, even though you have faced a loss, because they are different people, it's not like I can do my best to picture yours, but it doesn't bring back memories for me in the sense. But as soon as I'm sitting down over the dinner table, eating, well, I don't know, steak or whatever, and then and I notice this happens. It's weird. I get this like anxiety. Like,
Exactly.
it was like my brother's birthday the other day, and we went out to eat to a nice restaurant, and there was like, I think there was six of us, well, five of us at the table, and there was like a sixth chair. I don't know if that was purposely done for mum, or that just kind of happened. But as soon as we kind of acknowledged that, it was like I felt
it just hits you, doesn't it?
It's weird how that kind of happens. I don't know. It's the grief phenomenon, but
is it birthdays? Like, do you find certain times of the year it really triggers it more? You know,
yeah, I do.
Obviously, I know that's very common, but also like Christmas. I mean, That's what I dread the days leading up to it.
Oh, I swear,
it's terrible.
They are the worst.
It's worse than the day itself, isn't it?
It's the anticipation.
Completely.
Like, I obviously...
It's dreading. It's just,
I completely get that. It's not... Obviously, I'm a year, so it's like, I feel like over time things change, like your work. But last Christmas, but when I say I've not had... That potentially was like the most not traumatic, but because it was so fresh, it was so loss was so prolific, so present in our mind, that we had this Christmas dinner, and all the family was here. Like, I feel like trying to make it, you know, go on as normal, and
it's just not.
At this time, my brother, myself, my sister, we were very much. Early phases of grief. We were locking ourselves in our room, sort of, and it was just this horrible dinner, because, like, for everyone involved, like, even though, you know, everyone tried to put a smile on their face, like, oh, you're all right, but there was this like looming, like, I don't know the words.
No, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah,
it did make things a lot harder. I know I brought up family, and the reason I did bring up family, because I know that there's a reason for everything when I do this. And the reason for that was because I, very early on, I did notice a lot of aggression between all of us, in the sense of, like, we could go about life normally, and then this was early on, not so much now, but every so often we'd have this huge, like, angry, just confrontation. Like, it could be something so small, but everything would come up, and I do feel like that was needed in our grief, in a sense. Is that something you found, or was that not?
No, completely. I mean, I'm not usually a very angry person. I'm quite emotional, but I'm not angry. And I found myself I mean, it was different because I wasn't with my family for sort of a lot of the sort of grieving process in first year. But I found myself just like getting a chair and I'd like smash it at the wall. Had to pay quite a lot of money in damage, actually. And I'm not an angry person, but it's got to have a way of coming out, and I definitely did have an angry phase, so I completely relate to you there. And it's weird, isn't it, because it brings out a different, you know,
different side. You look at yourself in the mirror, like,
I look at the dents in my wall, I'm like, well, that's not me.
How have I done that? Who is that?
There's just marks everywhere. It's actually almost not funny, but it's like, I mean, you've got to laugh about it, don't you? It's just, but it is weird. And then there was quite a lot of time where I just didn't accept it. And I know these are all the sort of stages of grief, so to speak, but I definitely did probably feel every one of them at some point. And it was just, again, hard that people around me, you know, because I wasn't really at home a lot, that they probably thought, you know, oh my God, why is she throwing this chair? And but
what's she doing at you?
Yeah, what's she doing? But so it probably was with other people that, you know, obviously couldn't even begin to relate or sympathise. But you know, it kind of got me through, so to speak.
I mean, look, if I'm ever feeling angry, I'm gonna take your advice and just pick up a chair.
It's really not good advice.
No, I know. But I completely understand that, because aggression, and not aggression, it's like tension needs a way of coming out.
Yeah, completely. It's like frustration and
Completely.
aggression, all those,
And whether that's through emotions or whether that's through an angry
Physical,
gesture, it just needs to. And when you do grieve, it's your whole body chemistry. It does kind of. There is no control. Like, there isn't something you can. Maybe meditation, I don't know, but there's something to calm your body. Like, you are going through so many emotions, so many changes that
completely. It's so up and down. Every single day you can feel all 10, you know, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that you can't explain to someone who hasn't lost someone. It's, you know, it's not... One thing that I always struggled to understand was prior to the loss, and this is kind of why I'm doing these chats, but I didn't, you know, I felt, you know, Mum was always going to pass, and that was something that we all knew. We didn't know when.
Oh, there wasn't like any sort of like denial about it, or...
Look, she had she had
cancer for a long time.
She had it for a long time, and you know, she always wanted to live like maybe 5 more years, 10 more years, but there was no. It wasn't like. She isn't, you know, there was a certainty to like her life was going to be finalised. Like, it wasn't a shock in the sense. What was I saying? But what was I was saying something before I just went on this rant.
Talking about your family, and then you know, for a long time you knew that she was going to be.
Yeah, I did say that, but I want to know why I said that, but it doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, so she obviously had such a long journey, and I think you learn so much whilst on that journey. Looking back at it now, I can say, like, if I analysed how I was, you know, a lot of the things that I did and how I acted obviously were because of what my mum was going through. And at the time you don't think about it. At the time you don't assess your behaviour and assess, you know, your attention and assess your interaction with people, because you just wouldn't. But now obviously I can look back at it and assess. That's not what I was getting onto, which is annoying.
Ash was going to ask you something, just because it was obviously so long that she was, you know, unwell for. Do you think that helped you sort of accept after she passed away?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for me it was so sort of quick and it was so sudden. You know, a few months earlier she was healthy and we didn't even know she even. So I think for me I didn't accept it for a really long time, but I guess for you it's different because it was a longer sort of.
I do think I was asked this question, like someone asked something along those lines, like, how can you do all this after such a short period of time? And what I like to bring up is, yes, although she may have passed recently, her health and what I went through
was a longer time.
Was my whole life pretty much, you know, like I remember being 14, 13, getting a call. I was at in a music lesson in school, and I got a call saying, you know, your mum's, you know, just going to take you out of school. This is, you know, she's just got ill again, and so, and it was like, oh, for fuck's sake, like this again. Like it was something that was always so present in my life, that the grief stemmed from a young age. Like I was. It's weird, but like when I say I was expecting her to pass, because you look at your friends' mums, or you look at her peers, people her age, and the things that they could do, that she can do, and I could see how much that drained her. You know, watching a friend do press ups, and
we just go out for dinner, just anything, wherever it was,
completely, and as much as she didn't want people to treat her any differently, the harsh reality was that she was so different in the sense that she couldn't watch me play football some days. She couldn't, you know, as much as she tried, she was away from the house for like like 2 months at a time, because
Oh my God, really?
yeah, because I think we spoke about this a bit before, but she explored many different treatments. I think this is the first time I'm mentioning it here, because I don't think I've actually mentioned it on the podcast, but she went to Switzerland, she went to Mexico,
Wow.
treatment wise. And I guess that was kind of hard, like, being at home for it could be 6 weeks, 2 months, where she's
People
in
don't know,
in
yeah.
another country, not even in the same country, and you can go and visit them. So it wasn't like, even though you're on the phone to them,
It's
it
not
was like the
yeah.
loss had already started.
I'm so sorry. I know. Yeah. Wow.
You don't need to be sorry. It's
I
just
know.
like, it was. I think that was why my grief has kind of, not grief, but why I have been able to talk about it, in a sense, because it was something at 15 I would never been able to do this. Like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been able to talk, but now it's,
You have accepted it,
yeah,
so to speak.
I guess, in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, I think this has been such a wonderful chat, and I've learned so
you.
much from the Myogenes and the work you do there, and talking about just universities and how you go about life, and it's been really
Yeah,
amazing.
it's been lovely.
I do like to wrap it up on this one though, and if you have a chat with your mum, like if you could have a chat with your mum again, what is it you'd say? Like, if you could say like one sort of sentence or let her know something, what would you tell her?
I'd probably just say a really big thank you just for everything she's taught me, and just a lot of things I do. I really like, people always say, oh, like, you smile like her, you laugh like her,
Yeah.
everything, and I feel like I'm completely am the person I am today because of her. And yeah, just to say thank you for everything she's taught me, and just just made me the person I am, really. I'll never, I'll forever be grateful to her for being the best mum. So that's probably what I'd say.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But again, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to having you back on sometime in the future.
Definitely, yeah.
I just want you to find your truth and stick to it. I know you'll be okay. I know it. From the bottom of my heart, I know it. I love you, Papa.